This is the Solution Building Podcast with Mark Eastman. Thank you for listening. Today's solution: wouldn't you like to know how to build a better business?
If you're in the construction business, I'll bet you've asked yourself, how can running a business be this hard? There's never enough time to get everything done. I'm barely making minimum wage. I could work less and make more if I were flipping burgers. It sucks that nobody told you the business side of construction would be like this. I'm Mark Eastman, and as a professional builder and general contractor for over 40 years, I've felt that pain. That's why, as the owner of Timber Creek Construction, I developed systems to make the business side of construction easier. Welcome to the Solution Building Podcast, where we'll discuss construction problems and solutions. Now, here's my friend Nic Natarella with this week's solution.
Wouldn't you like to know how to build a better business? Let's share some thoughts on this over a cup of coffee. It's been a week since Gene, David, Larry, and Mike shared their struggles over a cup of coffee. It's a few minutes before 10 on Saturday morning, and David is already sitting at a table when Gene walks into the coffee shop. Gene goes to the counter, grabs a cup of coffee and a warm cinnamon roll, and makes his way over. Before Gene can even take a bite, David asks what he expects from this meeting. Gene ponders this for a minute and replies, "I hope we can figure out what to do about some of the problems I'm dealing with. But really, I have no idea what to expect. Did you invite anyone today?" "Yes," answers David. "I invited the roofing contractor my boss John uses. What about you? Did you invite anybody?" As the bell on the door jingles, Gene replies, "Yes, I did, and here he is. That's Doug, the guy who's been doing some of my concrete work." Just then, Larry walks in with someone Gene recognizes as a local builder but has never met. After the three newcomers grab their coffee, they join Gene and David at the table. "Looks like we might need more chairs," Larry observes. Gene agrees, and they grab the table and chairs next to them and drag it over. As they're getting situated, Mike walks in with a couple more guys. Once everyone is settled, Gene interrupts the overlapping conversations going on and asks everyone to go around the table and introduce themselves. There are the four from last week: Craig, the roofer David invited; Doug, the concrete contractor Gene invited; Steve, the general contractor Larry invited; and Bill, the plumber, along with Carl, the HVAC guy. After the introductions are done, Gene shares what happened last week and how the four of them started talking about the individual problems they were dealing with and wondering if those struggles were common. The reason for today's meeting and for inviting others was to find out. Gene starts off by rehashing some of the problems they discussed last week: not having the money to pay for a truck transmission repair, struggling to cover income taxes, and realizing that everyone around the table had faced similar struggles. "I was looking for answers and ended up with more questions than answers. So what are the biggest problems you guys have dealt with?" They all looked at each other, and the floodgates open. Losing money on jobs, employees not showing up, unhappy customers, equipment breaking down, jobs falling behind schedule, not being able to find good help, not having enough time to do everything, and on and on and on the list goes. Okay, Gene says, waving his hands. "Steve, you and Larry both have more experience than the rest of us. Do you have any specific examples of dealing with an unhappy customer?" Steve and Larry look at each other, and Larry nods for Steve to go ahead. "All right," says Steve. "A good example goes back to early in my business. I didn't know how to price a project, so I just did time and material. I'd give an estimate and then just bill the customer hourly for our time and add 10% to the material. I felt like it was the safest way for me to not lose money. The problem with this particular project was the customer kept adding additional work." Steve pauses before continuing. "When the project was finished, I gave them the final bill. The original estimate was $100,000. The final total ended up being $151,000. The customer was furious and informed me they couldn't pay the extra $51,000. They had borrowed everything they could just to cover the original estimate. We argued back and forth on this for weeks. I told them I couldn't afford to eat the $51,000. I didn't have that kind of money. Eventually, we agreed to split the difference, and I had to borrow $15,000 just to pay the material bill. I don't know where they came up with the rest of the money, but needless to say, the customers weren't happy, and they didn't have anything good to say about me." Steve shakes his head. I don't blame them for being upset. I assume they understood it would cost them more. They didn't. After that, I quit doing time and material and started doing bids. That didn't mean I never lost money on jobs again, but it happened less often, and I never had another customer as mad as they were. The guys around the tables nod, each of them identifying with similar situations from what they had to deal with. Well, it appears that we can all relate to Steve's story, Gene said. So what are we going to do to keep something like that from happening to us? Everyone shrugs and glances around the table with questioning looks. Then David speaks up. I've got an idea. Let me talk to my boss, John Lavelle. He owns Straight Line Construction and appears to have things figured out. Maybe he could help us find some answers. With that, the group agrees to meet back at the coffee shop again next week to hear what David finds out from John. If you can identify with the struggles these guys are dealing with, I get it. I've been there too. If you'd like a place to talk through the struggles of running a construction business over a cup of coffee, we're starting a weekly virtual Builders Coffee on February 18th at 10 a.m. Central Time. Pull up a chair. The coffee's on. You can also check out our digital business building toolbox or schedule a free 30-minute meeting to talk through the real problems you're facing in your construction business. Click the link below in the description.
Thanks for listening to the Solution Building Podcast. If you'd like more information on business systems and coaching that can help you be more successful, check out the blog archives at solutionbuilding.net.